Raising women's voices, one story at a time. Welcome to the She Said Project podcast. I am so happy to be here back in the She Said podcast studio in partnership with WCIA here in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. I'm Jeanette Jerzyk, one of your fabulous hosts for today's episode. Welcome. Welcome to the podcast. Hi.
Hey, girl. Hey.
I'm just going to volley that over to you. You got this?
Look at you with the sports talk.
Yeah,
you
I'm
volleyed
learning.
to me.
I'm learning.
Bless your heart. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Rosso, co-founder. So happy to be in the studio. Yeah. Still adjusting to our new digs and that we're on camera. And so if we're disagreeing, I can't make faces at Jeanette or like whatever, like stop. So this is really fun.
We're so professional. This is real. But we're actually really glad you guys are here with us. So now you can see all the shenanigans that go on behind the scenes at the She Said Project podcast, which reminds me, we were watching the opening credits that we created for our new series this year. And I was realizing, like, our friends on the podcast probably don't know what are we doing on stage, running around like a couple of chickens and putting headphones on. I just wanted to point out that the footage that we are using to open the podcast now is from our 10th performance of That's What She Said in Champaign-Urbana, our flagship community, where it all began in 2013. And so for our 10th performance a couple of months ago, we kind of did a little She Said podcast skit, if you will, a little sketch at the opening of the show, just to talk about our 100th episode and some of our amazing milestones. And so I love sharing the stage with you, Carrie. I really do.
Well, it's great fun. And I think that, our goal was for everything to feel like it was just a couple of broads on a stage chatting it up. And that's what the whole show should feel like, because that's real life. And then to be able to do those openings with you where it's the two of us just chatting it up is pretty fun.
So you and your friends started this whole shebang. Let's see how many words I can come up with in one episode. 2013. It was just a simple idea of giving women a microphone. And here we are 12 years later, and hundreds of women have held a microphone, stood on a stage, and boldly, bravely shared a very personal story from their life's experience. Like, how does that make you feel? All warm and fuzzy inside.
Well, that's none of your business, but but it is exciting because it's sort of the thing that we all knew already. There is no shortage of amazing women. There is no shortage of great stories. But the difference is what we took very seriously was putting a microphone in front of women that might not typically have a microphone. So the thing we felt passionately about is that woman who's telling the story that makes everybody laugh at the party. Or, if you go through a party, like, who's the person that had something really serious to share and that you, on the drive home, were like, wow, I was so inspired by that. Or that woman, I almost wet my pants laughing at her story. Like, those are the women that are just out there doing it, but without a microphone. So we just felt like, put a microphone in front of these people and shine a light on the value of, you don't have to be curing cancer. You don't have to be on SNL. In our daily lives, it's the real women that make and break our lives every day. And that's who we wanted to shine a light on and honor.
That's been one of the most fun things. Every time we're producing a new show and we get to put the cast together, we look at the community and we go, okay, what voices have we not showcased yet? Who have we not represented yet in the community? You're really intentional. You've always been really intentional about representation, and I've learned so much from you. And now as we break into new communities, we get to represent so many women's stories and voices. And I love, yes, we've had the occasional local celebrity. We've had mayors on our stage, and it's such a beautiful thing because you always say, don't share the story everyone knows you for. We've seen mayors on our stage talk about anything and everything besides being mayor. They're just real women. But we also have the school teacher and the nurse and, the police officer and the firefighter. We've had real women sharing real, pretty amazing stories. Like, I always like to say, we're putting on a play, but the script hasn't been written yet. And we don't need to make anything up because real life is interesting enough.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. I think that people, one of the things that I think, and you know this about me, it's like if a woman says, you want me, I'm just and then fill in the blank, a teacher, whatever it is, and they're like, I don't have a story. For me, that is gold. I immediately want that person in this show because I don't want people up there who are either on the speaker circuit or if they are in the public's eye, like I don't want that. If we were sitting around having a beer, what are the stories that we would tell?
Yes.
You know, if I'm sitting around with the mayor, she's not giving a mayoral speech, you know? She might try, but it'd be like, no, what are just as two women, what would we talk about? And that's what we want. And boy, have the ladies delivered.
They've brought it. We always say it's like the party after the party. You know, you're pouring your third, maybe fourth glass of wine, whatever. Hair comes down, shoes off. Those are the real stories, right? The ones you only tell your really close girlfriends. But we set the stage like a living room. And that's exactly what it feels like. Just women sitting around having a really, really good time. And so it started in Champaign-Urbana. And 5 years ago, we launched in our first new community of Bloomington Normal. And so this show in Bloomington is very near and dear to my heart because I got to produce and direct the very first one and every one since. And they just celebrated 5 years. And our guest today is one of the women who appeared in the most recent Bloomington Normal. That's what she said. And so in just a moment, we're going to let our audience know who's here with us in the She Said studio. All right, we won't make you wait any longer. Today in the studio, we have one of my favorite people. I'll be really honest. I don't know if she knows that, but she is. One of our speakers in the 2024 production of That's What She Said in Bloomington Normal, a town just a hop, skip, and a jump from where we are here in Champaign. But welcome to the podcast, Bekime Branch. Hello, gorgeous.
Hello. Thank you.
Welcome. It's been a while since I've seen you.
It has.
I know. It's too sad. I'm so glad you made the trek out here. It is so different to have like our guests in person. It feels so good because for a long time we did it over the phone or we did it on Zoom. It's not the same. How are you? How's the fam? How are the boys?
Boys are getting big. They're excited. School's out. Summer. My job is to keep them busy, out of trouble.
So you are a mom of how many boys?
7.
7 boys. 7 boys. 7 boys. Just I want you to grasp this for a second.
Yeah.
7 boys. Now that you have the bigs and the littles, right?
Correct.
So explain that, please.
The bigs are my grown adult children, so 26, 33, and 35. And then the littles are the little ones. They're 6, 8, 12, and 14.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
You had what, 4 in 5 years?
Yeah. But that's a full-time job in and of itself, wrangling all those boys.
Lots of energy.
So much energy
in our house.
Never bored.
Never bored. No.
And in addition to wrangling 4 boys, you work as
A nurse.
a nurse in a community center. Am I right? No.
Family
Chestnut.
Health Center.
Family Health Center.
Yes.
It's a nonprofit in Bloomington Normal. What is the mission of, I'm going to say it wrong, Chestnut
Health Systems.
Health System,
Yeah,
okay.
Chestnut Health Systems. We provide substance abuse and alcohol abuse services, behavioral health, psychiatry, family practice. We have community health workers and case managers. We provide assistance for the unhoused, uninsured, underinsured. Kind of do it all.
You do it all. That's an amazing organization to serve the community. I love that. Can you guys hear? You guys hear my motorcycle out front?
I know. Somebody
my
took
ride
your
is here.
motorcycle. Your ride or die. Well, I will say I love thinking about when I heard you were a nurse. I was like, of course she's a nurse. You have such a calm demeanor about you, and I know, when my dad was in the hospital or other loved ones, and it can be a stressful time, and thinking, every time I'm around you, I feel like, do you want to brush my hair? I'm not going to ask you to do a sponge bath, but you just have that about you that you just make people feel so cared for. And what everybody doesn't know is that you didn't just participate in your show, but you are so supportive. Often see you at shows here in other states and other cities, and I just think that that says so much about who you are, that you go and support not just She Said, but you're there to support all these other women, and especially when you've done it, you know what an exhausting and exhilarating experience that is, and just knowing that you're out there and supporting women really melts my old cold dark heart.
Bekime has been part of the She Said family for a very long time, and can I give it away?
Sure.
Okay, so I mean, on the table, those friends who've been following She Said for a long time might recognize the name Lana Branch. Lana appeared on stage in the first That's What She Said in Bloomington Normal in 2019 and shared the story of how they added the 4 boys to their family through foster care and then adoption. And that was such a powerful story. And Lana and we got to meet Bekime, stayed in the She Said family, and it took me 4 more years to get you to get on the stage and share your story. Yeah. You were resistant for a little bit there.
I might have been a little bit
resistant. What finally convinced you? I need to know.
You. How could I say no to you?
Well, okay.
You wore me down.
Okay, I'll take that as a compliment.
I can see that.
Yeah, but what we did learn through the process of going through your story is, first of all, she sits here so calm, so warm, so giving. This woman has lived so many lives, so many experiences, and we got to kind of go through them all and relive some of them and unpack a lot of them to find the story that she was going to share on the stage. And this is a perfect example of one of our speakers who had so much, I don't want to say to choose from, but so much life lived. It would have been impossible to just narrow down to one story without really acknowledging all that she had been through. I think that's the best way to say it. Like we took a moment to honor and acknowledge all of these lived experiences. But the one through line I remember from your story is how you came out on the other side. The lesson that you learned living through it all and who you choose to be today. Did I get that close?
You got that. That's pretty much been the theme of my whole life, and all of the things that I've experienced from the beginning on. I don't know why, but I was graced with the ability to look at experiences and situations and say, okay, this sucks. How do we move on? What's next? What do we got to do? So
that's how she keeps this demeanor, right? All this, things happen, she moves forward. And so we'll learn about how she copes in her story, so I don't want to give it away. So in just a moment, we're going to share your performance from That's What She Said, and then we can really help our audience understand how you do it all. We'll be right back. All right, so you came to hear a story, and a story you shall enjoy. So please enjoy this performance by our friend Bekime Feezor-Branch on stage, and That's What She Said, Bloomington Normal 2024, with her story, Dying to Live.
Death, dying, end of life. These are words that bring strong emotions to the surface. Sadness, fear, anger even. I've spent the past 34 years holding death's hand. But let me tell you something that may surprise you. Death's hand is not cold. It's not heartless. It's warm. It's a soft whisper, a slight raspy breath, a tear streaming down a wrinkled face. Sometimes it's a quiet sadness, and sometimes it's a sigh of relief. I have always been a caregiver, but being a nurse was my dream. To me, being a nurse means being able to love people at their weakest moments. When the world went into lockdown due to COVID, I was at the height of my 30-year nursing and caregiving career. I was the newly appointed executive director of a long-term care facility in Peoria. I didn't go home for almost 2 months. And when I did go home, it wasn't every day. My 70-hour work weeks turned into 90-hour work weeks as I helped to cover staffing struggles. We were in complete lockdown. No visitors or families were allowed in the buildings, no exceptions. So there we were. I was there in the building, in isolation gear from head to toe, face to face with patients dying of COVID. Trying to keep them comfortable when they couldn't breathe, holding their hands, and even holding their phones while they talked to the loved ones that were looking at them through the windows. People have asked me how I survived these horrible years. And the only way I can explain it is to say, I've had a lot of practice in my life with disconnecting. I've gotten really good at compartmentalizing, locking things up, and putting them away. Caring for my patients during COVID required the same survival techniques that I had learned during my complicated life. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped living in the moment and feeling what was actually happening. I was living my life in the third person. You know how some people refer to their memories as files in their brain that they put away for safekeeping? I think of mine more like extra large storage units where I've packed away most of my memories and put padlocks on them and put them on a cargo barge and sent off into Neverland because I had to. My childhood wasn't warm and fuzzy. I did not grow up with hugs and kisses and praises and encouragement. My mom and dad divorced when I was 2, and I was raised by my dad and my stepmom. I grew up in a house with 3 sisters, and while we had our moments of sisterliness, most of our childhood was spent in an individual survival mode, so it wasn't really conducive to a close sisterhood type bond. We each had our own role in the family, and mine was that of peacekeeper. I often took the blame so others wouldn't be in trouble. I learned to not care, to keep everyone at a distance, and to not need anyone or anything. I left home at 13 and became a part of the foster care system for the next 4 years. I was an angry, disconnected teenager with no purpose. I got involved in the world of drugs, and when I was 17, I ran away. My boyfriend and I drove across the country until we landed in Arizona, where we lived homeless, doing drugs, working off and on. I was on a path to destruction until I found out I was pregnant. That rocked my world. You see, now I had a baby that I was responsible for. Now I had a purpose. So I quit drugs and I came back to Illinois. Over the next 15 years, I became a mom to 3 boys. I lost my infant daughter at 3.5 months. Worrying about myself became unimportant. Pack it up. Then I was diagnosed, treated, and survived breast cancer twice. Thank you. But lock it up. I raised my boys as a single mom when I met the man that I thought would be my forever person. I was finally ready to allow somebody into my life. But life took him away from me. 2 months after our wedding, I was a widow. Send it away. I had children that needed me. I didn't have time to feel the enormity of these losses. I did everything I could to keep my head above water, at times working 2 and 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads and food in my boys' bellies. So I tucked away all the feelings and all the pain in the storage units of my brain. I put them in those metal units, put on the padlocks, and shipped them away, closed them away forever. And I could see the result of living like this play out even in my professional life. I was working as a CNA in long-term care, taking care of those that are no longer able to take care of themselves, feeding them, bathing them, walking them, talking to them, when I lost my first resident. We found them gone when we were doing rounds. The fact that this person had died alone with no one beside them really affected me. It made me incredibly sad for them. You see, I had no personal emotional investment, but I had plenty of emotional investment on behalf of another. That was my MO. If it was important to you, I made it a priority to me. I cared for many dying patients over the years, sitting with them, praying with them, even singing to them when they took their final breaths. All the while, I stayed detached. It was me, but it wasn't. That caring, compassionate caregiver was a version of me that I watched, but I didn't feel. I was living my life in the third person. Over the years, I thought what I had were bouts of healing. I believed I had not just survived life, but I had wrestled the beast and won. I married my amazing wife, and we added 4 more beautiful children to our family through adoption. Post-COVID, I left long-term care after 32 years because I felt like I had a decision to make. Either I was going to let my job be my life, or I was going to live my life. But you know there's going to be a twist thrown in there, right? Almost a year ago now, my dad got sick. I didn't have a relationship with my dad, but I stepped up to take some of the load off my sister. When he was in the hospital with a broken hip and pelvis, I was there every day to have the medical conversations with the staff. I would go in the mornings before work, and those mornings changed everything. My dad and I had conversations we'd never had about the things we'd never wanted to talk about. There was a healing and a connection that took place for both of us. When he passed away unexpectedly, the enormity of the time spent together in those past few weeks hit me. I was sad that we'd never had the daddy-daughter relationship that I'd seen other people have. But I was grateful for those last weeks and the closure that we were able to find with each other. So I thought I was good. Living my life in the third person, I didn't stop to grieve. I went right back to work. Came home every night, was a mom and a grandma, and did all the things. And then 8 weeks later, I got a call from one of my children. My biological mom had died. This was a blow and shock to me. While we weren't close, she'd been living in Georgia with one of my sisters. I knew her health was poor, but I didn't know she'd been in hospice for the past 9 months. My sister never told me. I will never get the chance to make things right or find closure with my mom. That opportunity is forever gone. And for the first time, I haven't been able to step into the third person. I got angry. I'm still angry. This past year has been a struggle for me, and I was not ready for it. I thought that by this time, at my age, and with all I've seen in life, that I was rock solid. Except I'm not. I've spent so much time cycling through emotions this year, feeling at times like I'm barely hanging on and not understanding why this time in my life was so different. And then one day, a really smart woman who loves me pointed out something that really blew my mind. I am safe now. I am safe. That's when I realized the original reasons for all of those walls, for that disconnect in those storage units and the padlocks, the two people in the world that were supposed to bestow safety, security, and love, but did the opposite and instead taught me fear, mistrust, and insecurity. They're gone now. The storage units that have always held my first-person experiences no longer have locks on them. The doors have been flung wide open, and I am learning what it is like to live life in the first person. I have deepened my relationships with my older children and my grandchildren. I am more physically and emotionally present for every moment of raising our younger boys. I choose to work 40 hours a week, loving what I get to contribute, but work looks a lot different for me now. It no longer takes away those precious moments that I'd been missing for so many years. This is a year of transition. This is me learning how to openly feel all the feels. This is me learning how to love me and that I deserve to love me. This is the year of B.
Okay, I physically felt the urge to stand up and give you a standing ovation. Like, I almost got out of my chair to applaud you one more time because, I mean, it's been a number of months since you shared that story, but it's so powerful every time. Are you okay, like, watching it again?
It makes me cry.
Every time, right? Yeah. Now, this is you reliving a lot of your past, and there's so much that we can unpack here. Where do we begin?
Well, I have to say, watching it this time, what really struck me in the past when I watched it, I was watching you. And this time, a little behind the scenes, literally is your wife, Lana, is just over your right shoulder in this. Yeah. And you could, watching her watch you and seeing her reactions, it was like watching it for the first time. It was very sweet.
How was it sharing the stage with your wife? I know that there are always moments, but how was it really? She's not here. You can no one's going to hear this.
Go ahead and tell us. We won't tell anyone. Just between us.
Yeah. No, it was good. I was able to pull from her experiences, having already been on the She Said stage, and that I was able to be there and see her through everything. And then, of course, we continued to be a part of the She Said family, and we go to every single She Said show that we can. If it's feasible, we're physically there. So I think a lot of that was very helpful to me. So she got to give me some good tips and hints and kick me along the way.
I would definitely say you had more insight to how it all works than the average speaker going into the process. So I just want to say it was an honor to have you, especially at the 5-year anniversary. And Lana was our MC that night. And to watch you shine and can we talk about the white, like the flowy white? Just, you're this angelic, beautiful, just, first of all, grandchildren, are you serious?
11.
11 is the age or the number?
The number.
I'm like, my chin is on my boobs. I'm like, what?
How many?
I have 11 grandchildren.
Okay, you look like, I think I'm older than you. I swear. Like, this is not possible. You are stunning. Completely and totally. But I love the metaphor. And you brought that to the table. Like, when we talked about all the trauma that you had experienced in your life, and I don't even know that we covered all of it in that short story. But the only way that you have managed to move forward and keep going is you taught me, you lock it away. And I remember thinking, first of all, how sad I felt for you, because I call myself an emotion junkie. Like, I live for emotion. I want all of it, the good, the bad. I want to laugh, I want to cry. But for you to just be and not let things affect you, my first reaction was how sad. And then I saw the strength. I saw the strength that you carry to keep going, and I was blown away. And so while we found this really fascinating metaphor of compartmentalizing, but for you it was what, these big cargo ships, these big, storage compartments, and it was so much bigger, but it was the only way you had, it was your survival technique. And so I really thought that metaphor carried through and was such a great visual to help the audience really understand how you process. And that, I see it as a gift now. I see your strength as a true gift.
I think that compartmentalizing did help me get through a lot of really hard things in life, especially as a nurse through COVID. If I wore my emotions on my sleeve, I don't know that I would have still been a nurse today. I probably would have had to have thrown in the towel and said, I can't do this anymore.
It'd be one messy sleeve, for sure.
For sure. But there's, a little bit of a struggle with it too, because even though I'm learning to feel all the feels and live my life in the first person, it's still now ingrained habit for me to want to just put it away and, visit it another day, maybe, if I feel like it, kind of thing. So even today, in this year of transition, I have to make myself think, stop and think and say, no, we're gonna face this one. We're gonna do this head on. Let's do it. So
living through it, feeling through it.
Right.
There's a lot of power in that, though, right? Feeling your feelings instead of putting them away. You said the phrase living in first person versus living in third person. There's a lot of power living in first person and choosing to be present, right? I think life is so much more satisfying that way. It's so much more exciting. It's so much more real.
And I'm team filing cabinet, and but I think a lot of women, and probably men too, but especially if you're a parent, especially if you're a parent in a large family, things happen so fast every day. It is impossible. If you are with your children and you get a text or you see something on the news or you fill in the blank with whatever strong thing it is, and it isn't something that you want to share or go through with your children present, or you're at your job, I think we all do it to some extent. I think the important thing that I took away from yours was, but don't forget to go back and go through that file. Otherwise, you're going to have overflowing filing cabinet, and then that doesn't serve anyone.
Sinking cargo ships.
Okay, it's okay if you do that in a healthy way and you revisit it. This is what I'm telling myself anyway, right? Right? This is where you guys say, absolutely, that's the right thing.
Should I point out all the locks on your filing cabinet?
Yeah.
It's time to unlock them.
So much of it, I thought, oh my gosh, I get that. But you just have to go back in, because you're still a nurse, you're still mothering lots of people. And so you feel like now you can do it in a way that feels better.
Yes, and I've always felt emotion. It's not, I'm not a robot. I experienced life. I felt emotion. I was sad. I grieved. I did all the things. I cry at Hallmark commercials. I definitely feel emotion, but sometimes it's just facing the directness of a situation and knowing that it's okay to face it. That you'll get through it if you face it.
You brought up COVID and where you were at that point in your life. So I want to revisit that in just a second. We're going to take a quick break. So remind us, at the height of COVID, where were you employed?
I worked for a long-term care facility in Peoria.
And you live in Bloomington Normal?
Live in Bloomington,
So
yes.
You're working in Peoria. We're in lockdown. And I don't remember how much actually stayed in your story, but I remember there were you were covering for doctors and nurses and people who couldn't make it in, and every time someone had a personal tragedy, took on another person's job and took on another person's job.
At the time, I was an executive director for the facility, but all healthcare workers that worked through COVID will tell you that we never had any one job. It was a team effort to get through the day because we had people out sick with COVID that they couldn't come into work. COVID was very scary, even for those of us that worked in healthcare. A lot of the healthcare workforce left. They stopped working because they were scared to be actively, taking care of patients with COVID. So it caused, major staffing shortages between the people that left and the people being sick and, all the things. It was tough.
What kept you going? Why did you stay?
My patients.
Yeah.
It was my patients, yeah.
So you opened your story talking about holding death's hand and how many people you have sat next to during their last few moments. And what I loved is that you shared the other side, how people think of death and dying as this scary, dark time, and you found beauty in it.
I was shown beauty in it over the years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the long-term care setting, a lot of the patients don't have families or they don't have connections with their families or whatever. And when we worked in long-term care, you became their family. And when you're working long, crazy hours, you're probably spending more time with them than you are your own family. So it very much, creates a connection between the caregivers and the patients. And I made a promise to myself after I lost my first patient that I talked about in the story when we found them already gone. I made a promise to myself after that if I was at work, if I was on the premises, no patient of mine would die alone. And that's a promise I've kept all these years since then. That was a long time ago.
Wow. Carrie, you're staring at her with such admiration.
Well, I'm just because I know my dad was in the hospital during COVID, and I remember talking to him, and he would be like, "So Amy here, you're not going to believe it," and then he would tell me her life story, and it made me think how generous of spirit these nurses were. They weren't just doing their job; they were becoming. We couldn't go into the building, and so they recognize it isn't just about caring for their physical needs. They need to chit chat. They need to hear about someone else's life. They need to connect, which is what it all comes down to, right? And I just, more than any of the physical care, I was so grateful for those nurses for letting him chat and for telling him about their own lives. And I can just picture you doing that and being such a calm, gentle, generous of spirit person.
But what was the impact it had on you and your family?
It was very hard.
Yeah.
The first 3-4 months of COVID, when my facility went into lockdown, we weren't letting the families or anything in. I didn't go home. I stayed in Peoria.
For how long?
Almost 4 months.
Oh
I didn't go home. And it was there were multiple reasons for it. One, of course, we were scared. I didn't want to take anything home to my family either. But I also couldn't leave these guys. I couldn't leave them with not enough staff. I couldn't leave them scared. Families, I felt for the families tremendously during that time because, I saw them standing on the other side of the window wanting to talk to their loved one, especially the ones that were dying and they couldn't even be in the room and they wanted to be there to hold mom or dad's hand or whatever, So it was just as hard for them as it was for the patients. And we were that mediator, that middle ground, that connection, whether it was, holding the cell phone up to the patient's ear so they could hear their loved one while they watched them, because they could see them outside the window, but not necessarily hear through the window. And it was cold months. Yeah, we're talking January, February, March in central Illinois. And, they
and
were
you're
standing
in a full
out there in the
hazmat
cold.
suit, right?
Yeah. They were out there in the cold freezing, and I was in a hazmat suit sweating like crazy. So, yeah.
Fun memories.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So after you shared your story on stage, it was a beautiful night. I loved working with you and the cast. It was such a great group of women. What's the kind of feedback you got from your friends and family and the women you shared the stage with? And has anyone approached you or shared their thoughts on your story?
So the first thing is my oldest son was there in the audience.
Wow.
And he had not heard a lot of the things that I talked about. He was
Really?
completely unaware of a lot of those things. So he was very emotional. It had a great impact on him. And then along that vein, Lana and I were actually at an event a couple months ago, and somebody walked up to us and they were like, "Hey, you ladies were in She Said," and we were like, "Yeah." And she was like, and she looked at me and she said, "Yeah, I sat in the first row right next to your son. We held hands and cried together." I was like, "Oh." So that was very sweet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, and it was a chance for them to see you in a different light,
Yes.
not just mom, but
Yeah.
to see through your lens what your life had been like.
Right. Well, and you know, when they're kids and they're growing up, they just know that they had food and they had video games and, you know, they got to play basketball or do whatever. They don't know what's behind the scenes.
Right.
Of course, now he's an adult and has my twin granddaughters.
Oh my goodness.
So
And
he's
they're-
learning, and they just turned a year old.
I know,
So he's
they're so
learning
little.
the whole parenting thing now. So to have heard that story right before he became a parent was pretty significant.
So are you a grandma, Mimi?
Nana.
Nana. We go
Nana.
with Nana. Okay.
Yeah,
There's always a special meaning to the
Nana.
grandma title. Nana. Okay. Just because I'm curious, what do they call Lana?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and Nana.
That is
that's
extra
nice.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nana.
I'm still stuck on that you're a grandma. I still can't get over that.
Oh my goodness. So what's next? What's next for you, Bekime?
Lots of boy energy still. You know, making it day to day. Still love my job and the patients that we take care of and the clients that we take care of. And I love the connection I get to have with my local community through that organization and the work that we do. You know, Lana and I are going to forever be She Said roadies.
Ooh,
So-
I like this.
She said roadies.
Members of the club.
All right.
Yeah.
So you ended your story with "This is the year of B." So we're going to take a quick break, and before we wrap up today, I want to talk a little bit about what that's going to look like.
Okay.
All right, we're back. All right, so year of B. What is that going to look like? And how can we help? How can we be part of that?
I think the biggest challenge for me when I think about actually putting it into action, the year of B, is doing things that I want to do that actually take me away from what other people may want or need from me. Because I've spent my life making your need my priority.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's been hard for me to turn that around and make my own need a priority. I have a group of girlfriends, a combination of work and outside of work friends that we call ourselves the Girl Gang. But we've actively, do bingo a couple times a month and, maybe do happy hour on a Friday after work, or we're actually going on a girls' trip this weekend.
Yay.
Yes,
to South
please.
Carolina. So for me, it's little things like that. Like I have never gone on a vacation without children
Ever.
in 36 years, 35 years.
This weekend will be the first time.
This weekend will be the first time that I've been on a vacation with no children.
I think that makes me think of, I've always felt really strongly that like those things are good for you, but I also think it's really good for our children to see that I am a contributing person in society separate from you, that we don't live in a silo. I go out into the world and I, whatever it is, work, volunteer, go on trips with my girlfriends, that all the parts of me are important and I have to take care of them. Because I think so often it's easy for us to feel guilty, whether it's self-imposed or society or whatever. But I think if it doesn't come naturally, forcing ourselves, and maybe it helps if you think it's not just for my own self-care, but I need my children to see that in me.
Yep.
So I'm a big believer in that, and I do all of those things quite frequently. I leave my kids to go work and do things that bring me joy and passion. I volunteer for nonprofits. I go on vacation without my kids. and I feel this much zero guilt about it. And I think they get it. I mean, yeah, they miss me, and but they're healthy and they're thriving and they're going to be just fine. But mom guilt and nana guilt creeps in, I think. But if we listen to that voice, then we would never do the things that make us happy, right?
Right.
If we were always living for someone
fine.
else.
They'll survive this weekend without me. I'm not sure Lana will survive this weekend
Well, she
with
gets
all the kids
right.
without me.
Right.
But the
She
boys
has
will
to
be
take
great.
And I think that they won't just survive. I think that they're better for it. I
Yeah.
think, a happy mama makes for a happy life. And if that means caring for yourself, going on trips, doing whatever it is that you do, I think that's great for them to see you doing that. And then you're modeling for them to take care of themselves and to live a full, rich life, not just a one-faceted life.
And your wife is very wise. I want to go back to that moment in the story where you had to say goodbye to your biological mom, and you were there at the end of your dad's life, and you had these beautiful moments where you reconnected. And the fact that she pointed out to you that you're safe. Like, those are some powerful words, right? And you'd think of them as a good thing, but for you, that was a big thing for you to process.
Well, it didn't occur to me that I didn't feel safe.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm grown. I've been grown for a lot of years. I've been away from the childhood and the environment and all of those things for a really long time. I haven't spent the last 30 years of my life not feeling safe. So it didn't occur to me that I didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
It just never occurred to me until she said that. It was a huge light bulb moment for me.
Like you said, the doors swung wide open, and now you're living in the first person.
Yep.
So what is living
I'm
in the
loving
first?
it.
Are you?
I am.
Are you?
I am.
So one of the great things we get to do with That's What She Said is all the different women we meet in Bloomington Normal and Champaign, all the different markets. It's so fascinating to see women approaching this phase in life where they're living for themselves, or they're not settling anymore, or they're finding their voice, and we get to be a platform for them sharing that voice. I mean, that was the whole mission from the very beginning, but it's meeting these women at these really unique stages where they're figuring it out. Why do we wait so long, do you think? Why do you think women have this big surge of, self-awareness that comes later in life?
Because we're busy taking care of everybody else before that, getting married, raising kids, establishing a career or not, or whatever. You're so busy investing your time and energy and effort into all the people around you in whatever, form that takes place. It's not until we get past I think, some of those years. And of course, I would say, your kids get grown, but I still have little ones again. But, you get to that point where
you're doing it over again. Yes.
Yeah.
Repeat.
Yeah. But you get to the point where you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. All right. So you just got my attention for 18 years. I'm going to go out to eat. See you later. I think that's kind of what it comes.
Do you guys feel like it's changing, though? Because one of the things I was talking about now that I'm in my 50s, and I feel like so free and whatever, I don't care in so many ways. But I think, what can we do for those younger women to have that sooner? And it feels like it's shifting a little. Maybe it's societal and women aren't buying that thing that they were sold for so long.
So I have this idea. Let's launch a teen empowerment program where we give teens a voice, and we help them discover the stories that make them special and unique.
That sounds
and we put them on a stage and give them a microphone.
We could call it That's What Teens Say.
Let's do that.
We're onto something.
But what I love, we do run a teen program, and that's the exact reason we do. If we can get to these girls before the world tells them, their voices don't matter, that they need to be quiet or be small. Let's tell them now that their voices matter, their opinions matter, that their voice matters. I've had just an amazing time watching these teens go through the transformation of finding their story. And the first time you put them up on a stage and the audience reacts, they say, their first line, or they get a round of applause, or they get, laughter at a joke. Oh my gosh, you can see the look on their face, that was for me. And it is life-changing. It is life-giving, giving women this place where they can feel the energy of women surrounding them and saying, yes, you got this.
And that's what when we started, she said, we were all young moms. We all had really little children. And part of what we all talked about feeling was that there's this message to women, like, you can do all these things, but first you have to get married and you have to have kids, and it's hard to do those things at the same time. So if you do those things, then you can have. And we were like, no, we want our kids to see us now, that we are now embracing life and that we are now doing whatever it is, whether it's I want to be a stay-at-home mom and spend these years at home, or if you're the person that's like, I want to do a theater show for women. Like that all the things are on the table for you, just depending on what's that fire in your belly. And so hopefully when women are 40 and 30 and 20, they're seeing there's not just one path for you. There are lots of different paths you could choose.
How incredible could this world be if teens go out into the world, go into their 20s, knowing that anything is possible, and having women to look up to, mentors who can show them, you can do it this way, you could do it this way. It isn't one size fits all, this life that we lead. I love it. I love getting to work with the teen girls, and I love getting to work with the women, and that's what she said. I love my life. I get to spend time with these women, just finding their stories and listening. I think I'm a professional listener. That's what I put on my resume now, professional listener.
It's pretty great. And then all of that brings us to meeting people like you. We're just a town apart, but we would not have met. I wouldn't have heard your story, if there hadn't been this microphone, after being asked multiple times. But you eventually caved and shared your story. And because of that, then all of the connections that have been made, women are pretty awesome.
They are. Yeah. I'm willing to bet that all 11 of your grandchildren are so proud of you. And that's the thing we try to do with this platform is you shared your story on the stage. Then it's on YouTube. And now thank you for joining us here in the podcast studio, where we hope that even more women will get to experience your story, listen to some of these discussions, figure out that, they're not alone. Me too, me too. We took Me Too back and we changed the meaning.
I'd like to say that we did Me Too first.
We did.
We always talked about, we want people out there to either see somebody, their life perspective and how they're living their life is totally different and like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way, or I never thought that was an option for me. And we wanted people to say Me Too, whether that was, I was hanging out in my bathing suit at the pool and how embarrassing and everybody's laughing, or, there was this time that I was working during COVID in the healthcare industry. All of those things, we want that to all be on the table for everybody. Now let's sing a song. Let's
just sing. Kumbaya. We need to hold hands. But you're forever in the sisterhood, and we're so grateful to have you here.
I'm privileged and honored to be here.
Yay. Yay. We'll keep you. She's a keeper this one.
I guess we're going to keep you.
I think we're going to keep her. Well, that's all the time we have for today. And I'm so sad to see you go. But it has been so fun getting to reconnect, listen to your story, learn a little, grow a little. I'm listening to some of these repeating themes. I'm like, is this going to turn into the ladies in their 50s show? I don't know. We'll see. Not every She Said speaker is in their 50s. We'll certainly cover some different ground as we share some more amazing stories with our guests and our audience. So thanks for joining us. It's an honor to be here in the WCIA studios. Carrie, always an honor to share the microphone with you.
Same right back at you.
Ditto.
Yep.
All right, so thanks for joining us for another episode of the She Said Project podcast. Thank you for listening to the She Said Project podcast. All materials contained in the podcast are the exclusive property of the She Said Project and That's What She Said LLC. For more information on our live shows, go to shesaidproject.com.